Take care of my mom, please.
I looked down on my husband when I saw him desperately begging me. But even if you say that, I was at a loss for words. Unaware of my feelings, Catherine, my mother-in-law, was playing marbles innocently with my children on the porch. What am I supposed to do? I was on the brink of despair. My name is Julia. I'm a 42-year-old stay-at-home mom. My husband, Ken, is 3 years older than me and works tirelessly as a middle school teacher. He's busy even on weekends with club activities and is rarely home. Still, on his days off, he goes all out for the family, and our kids and I love him dearly. We have 2 children. Our daughter, Amy, is 10. She's stepping into her preteen years and can be rebellious, but she's still my sweet girl who sometimes holds my hand as she falls asleep. Our son, Rick, is 5. He's a mischievous little boy who runs around the neighborhood hills, but still loves to be held. Our family has been living with my mother-in-law, Catherine, in her house for 2 years now. At 6 p.m., after finishing dinner prep with me, Catherine calls the kids.
John and Mary, dinner's ready.
Okay, I'm coming.
The kids respond to these unfamiliar names.
You too, Emily, take a seat.
She calls me by a different name as well. Okay, thank you. Catherine has no recognition of any of us.
Let's eat.
That's how we sit around the table, and Catherine finishes her meal with a contented look.
I need to boil some water.
It's okay. I already did it.
Oh, really? You're so thoughtful.
Satisfied with my answer, she soon repeats herself after taking a bite.
I need to boil some water.
It's okay. I already did it.
Oh, really? You're so thoughtful.
No matter how many times this happens, the kids remain unfazed. This is our everyday life. 2 years ago, Catherine fell and broke her thigh bone while living alone. Her hospital stay was prolonged, forcing her into a mostly immobile lifestyle. Unlike when she was living alone and alert, she started to spend her days in a fog. Each time we visited her in the hospital, her conversations grew more puzzling, and by the time she was discharged, she was diagnosed with dementia. When my husband suddenly bowed and asked to take his mom in, I panicked. I agonized over it every day. But ultimately, I couldn't abandon gentle, kind mother-in-law, and the kids loved their grandma, so we decided to take her in. At first, the kids were confused, but they accepted it, saying that reacting to the names she called made Grandma happy. During those times, we all called her Catherine and spent our days peacefully. Despite the challenges, we lived in peace until someone had to say something. It was my sister-in-law, Nora, Ken's sister.
Julia, you can't make mom do housework. Aren't you embarrassed as a daughter-in-law?
Nora, who hadn't visited in 6 months, frowned at seeing Catherine sweeping. But Catherine feels better when she does housework. The doctor even said to let her do what she can. I argued back.
Stop making excuses. You're stay-at-home mom living off Ken's salary and mom's pension.
Oh no.
Mom seems so healthy. Is she really demented? Or are you just lying to live off us?
That's not true. What does she know, showing up only occasionally?
Mom, I bought your favorite cookies. Let's eat them together.
Thank you, Nora.
Catherine was in a good mood seeing her daughter. Tonight, she'd likely forget she even saw Nora. I was really fed up with Nora's high and mighty acting just because she spent a little tea with Catherine. My husband not only had an older sister, but also an older brother. Despite being the youngest of the 3 siblings, we were the ones who took his mom in. Mike, my brother-in-law, is always moving because of work, and Nora got married and moved away, so they act like it's only natural for us to take care of their mom since we live nearby. My husband, on the other hand, is genuinely grateful for my dedication and always takes over his mom's care on his rare days off. Catherine, though she has some accidents and mild wandering, never gets angry and always thanks me with a sweet smile.
Thank you.
It makes me happy. But the more I feel like I'm being taken advantage of by her children, who offer no help but lots of criticism, the more my dissatisfaction grows. Just when I thought these days would continue, our lives changed drastically. My husband, Ken, passed away. I got a call that he collapsed at work, and by the time I rushed to the hospital, it was too late. It was so sudden that I couldn't even cry. After the funeral and taking care of the kids, a month had passed before I knew it. Watching the kids struggle to get back to their routine, I realized I needed to start thinking about our future. Though Ken left us money, it wouldn't last forever. And we were living in his parents' house, caring for his mom. Moreover, her dementia is progressing. Sometimes Catherine understood her son was gone. Other times, she forgot. Even so, she often cried like a child, overwhelmed by the loss. I couldn't bring myself to leave her, couldn't find work, and lived off our savings. 3 months after Ken's death, his sister and brother suddenly appeared.
How long are you planning to freeload off us?
What? Exhausted from caregiving and looking after the kids, I was speechless. Looking down at me, my brother-in-law, Mike, arrogantly lectured me.
Aren't you ashamed? Living off mom's small pension?
Catherine's pension only covers her living expenses.
Are you sure?
Mike scoffed. He didn't contribute a penny to his brother's funeral, but had the nerve to lecture me. Nora, meanwhile, looked around the house critically and started bossing me around.
You're not family anymore, so get out. I live here with Mom.
What? But you said you couldn't take her because you got married.
Oh, it's fine. My stupid husband cheated, so I thought I'd come back here and take care of Mom. The kids are grown anyway.
What? How selfish can she be? If her husband really cheated, I feel for her, but it's too convenient to just kick me out without even thanking me for all the caregiving. Ignoring my frustration, Nora ran to Catherine, who was sunbathing on the porch.
Mom, you'd rather live with your real daughter than a greedy daughter-in-law, right?
Catherine, drowsy under the sunlight, gave a vague response. But Nora forcibly interpreted it as Catherine agreeing with her.
See, she says you should leave.
Even if you say that. Seeing my face turn pale, Mike smirked.
Too bad you lost your cash cow. If you'd been working instead of freeloading, Ken might have lived longer. Poor guy.
Using Ken's death to torment me, this man had no heart or soul. He was despicable. But I was too exhausted, both physically and mentally, to muster the energy to fight them. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I sat in the quiet house, lost in thought. Honestly, leaving this house might make my life easier. If I didn't have to care for Catherine, I could go back to work. But should I just leave and do what Nora wants? Wouldn't that mean abandoning Catherine? Wouldn't my late husband be sad? Such negative thoughts swirled in my mind. Suddenly, I noticed Catherine standing beside me.
Julia.
Catherine, what's wrong? Do you need to go to the bathroom? I was puzzled by being called Julia after so long and started to get up to help her. But Catherine stopped me and held my hand.
Julia, you need to leave this house.
What? I was taken aback by her sudden suggestion. Did she prefer Nora, who also shared her blood, rather than me? Seeing through my thoughts, she spoke gently.
You're still young. Don't waste your time on an old woman like me. But make sure Rick and Amy don't struggle and live with the three of you.
But Catherine,
It's okay. As long as you're happy, that's enough for me.
Catherine smiled. My chest tightened and my throat burned with emotion. Catherine. For the first time since Ken's death, tears flowed freely. Catherine gently stroked my hand.
Thank you so much. You've helped me so many times with those kind hands. I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's right. I decided to live with Catherine because she's like this. Embraced by her, who smelled of incense, I cried my heart out like a child. The next morning, Catherine greeted me.
Good morning, Emily.
She probably didn't remember last night, but I had made up my mind. I would leave this house to protect my children, to honor Catherine's wishes. I found an apartment within the same school district and moved there with the kids. I worried about her, but decided to leave her in her daughter's care for now. By chance, there was an opening at my previous workplace, and I managed to get a job. The kids weren't fully settled yet, but I felt we were gradually moving forward. However, 2 months after leaving the family home, I received an unbelievable call from Nora.
Taking care of mom is harder than I thought. Can you come help?
What?
I said it's tough because mom cooks with rotten vegetables and forgets to hang the laundry. Can you watch her during the day?
What is she saying? She criticized me for making Catherine do housework, but she's doing the same. Besides, Catherine can't handle everything perfectly on her own due to her cognitive decline. Did you take in your mother with dementia just to use her for housework? Unbelievable. You should help Catherine with the housework yourself, Nora.
But I'm busy too.
Her kids have moved out and she doesn't work. So how is she busy? I have a job too, so I can't.
You can take a little time off, can't you? You're the daughter-in-law.
I can't take paid leave to care for someone else's mother.
What? You call your husband's mother a stranger?
You said it yourself, Nora. I'm no longer family.
That was.
Nora stammered. I decided to strike at her inflated pride. Are you so incapable that you need to rely on a stranger, Nora?
What do you mean?
If you want my help, you'll have to pay me. Then I'll do it as a job.
You're such a greedy woman. Why did Ken marry someone like you? I'll never ask for your help again.
Is that so?
Bitch.
I was appalled as Nora spat out those words and abruptly ended the call. But I felt relieved that I had stood up for myself better than before. helping Catherine now would only let her take advantage of me. Nora must have some pride, so she likely won't mistreat Catherine too much for a while. In the meantime, I prepared for the future while stabilizing my own life. 3 months later, Nora called me to meet at a diner, and when I arrived, I saw her sitting there with disheveled hair and a pale complexion, her eyes vacant.
I wasn't told.
What?
I wasn't told Mom was this difficult. Why didn't you tell me?
But you didn't listen, did you?
Oh my God.
Nora groaned and fell silent. Though Catherine is gentle, she wanders and wets the bed. It must be hard to care for her alone. I wouldn't have managed without my husband and kids' support. After making some unintelligible noises, Nora resolutely reached into her bag. She pulled out a thick envelope and threw it at me.
Take this and help me.
What's this?
You said you'd do it if I paid.
Astonished at Nora's arrogance while asking for help, I checked the envelope's contents. It seemed to contain about 50 $100 bills. Knowing Nora, she probably prepared the money reluctantly. But she fundamentally didn't understand the weight of asking someone else for help. All right then. Is this considered an advance payment?
What do you mean?
If I come 5 or 6 days a week, the total would be around $35,000 a year.
Really?
If I lived in, it would cost more. What do you want to do? Nora gaped at me, then turned bright red and screamed. Then, turning bright red, she screamed.
There's no way I can pay that much. How can you charge so much while watching someone suffer? Are you heartless? A monster?
Call me a monster if you want. This is what it means to ask someone for help. I have to raise my children. I don't have the luxury to volunteer.
Gosh.
Now you understand? I'm not just a stay-at-home mom freeloading off Catherine and Ken.
Jesus.
If you pay me $35,000, I'll work. But putting Catherine in a facility might be cheaper.
That's cruel to Mom.
There's nothing sad about it at all. There's no worse situation than being treated like a burden as she is now. It's safer to leave her care to professionals than an amateur like me.
But what will my relatives think? Besides, I won't be able to get her pension.
I was taken aback by her reply. In the end, she cares more about appearances and money. Who's greedy? You got a settlement from your husband, right? Because he cheated.
Well, that is.
Or did you not get anything? Are you that noble? Or was it you who actually cheated?
No.
Nora's shoulder twitched amusingly. Looks like I hit the mark. She probably used caring for my mom as an excuse to dodge divorce and alimony. Well then, it seems like your brother Mike is the one to rely on. Ask him for help or money.
No way.
As blood relatives, you can rely on him more than an outsider like me, right?
Well.
Nora bit her lip. Knowing her brother, who is all talk. He's probably using his job transfer as an excuse to avoid helping altogether. Talk with Mike about what's best for Catherine. To avoid Nora causing more of a scene, I quickly grabbed the bill and settled the payment. Apparently, she endured for a while, but eventually reached her limit and forced her way into Mike's house with Catherine. His wife and kids were appalled by the bitter feud between his sister and him over their mom's care, and, fearing they might be saddled with her caregiving, left the house. It seems they didn't side with him because he had likely mistreated them as well. Abandoned by his family and in shock, Mike decided to cover their mom's care facility costs himself and told Nora and Catherine to leave. 1 year after my husband's death, Nora informed me.
We're putting Mom in a facility.
I had been waiting for this moment and introduced Catherine to the best care facility I had researched over the past 6 months. Nora babbled incoherently, but I took it as consent and quickly proceeded with the admission process. Finally, Catherine had found a place to call home, and I could visit her freely. Now, I could talk to her without worrying about her children's insults. This was the best way I could repay her while raising my children. Tears welled up in my eyes as Catherine gently stroked my hand, just like that day.
Are you sad? It's okay. I'll protect you, Emily.
She didn't call me by my name, but her hand and voice were still warm. Thank you, Catherine. I'll visit you often from now on. When I smiled, she smiled back happily. Since then, she has been living comfortably in the facility I chose. Knowing her family had been fishermen, I selected a quiet place with a view of the sea. The facility's atmosphere was just as I had researched, and Catherine seemed to be at peace. Catherine, being kind and charming, was well liked by both the staff and other residents. Whenever I visited, she was surrounded by people and seemed to be enjoying herself. Meanwhile, Mike never managed to win back his family and was embroiled in a contentious divorce. Nora, though freed from caring for Catherine, had no income since her pension went to the facility. She reluctantly took a part-time job, where she was scolded by her much younger boss. She was also avoiding her own divorce, but it looked like she would soon face mediation. Nora still visited Catherine's facility, but she tried to avoid me out of shame. My goal of ensuring peace for Catherine and my family was achieved, so I hoped Nora would find her own way.
Emily, you should think about getting married again.
As we walked along the seaside, Catherine muttered. I wondered how old she saw me as and replied, maybe if I meet the right person.
You're a beautiful and kind girl, Emily. I'm sure you'll find a wonderful husband and a kind mother-in-law.
I hope so. I gently held Catherine's hand. I want to marry into a family with a mother-in-law as kind as you, Catherine. On that warm spring day, the sound of waves gently lapping at the shore echoed pleasantly in my heart.